Let's talk about the final type of test, automation tests. Now, you may also hear the term end-to-end testing when it comes to automation tests, so keep that in mind. Automation tests, like I said before, are UI tests that are always running inside a browser or a browser-like environment because they need to simulate user behavior in these environments, such as clicking, typing, scrolling. And finally, they need to make sure that these scenarios actually work from the point of view of an end user. It's an important test, right? If your checkout process has a bug, the best way to probably test it is to actually go through that checkout flow and make sure that users can purchase whatever you're selling. Now, in an ideal world, we have automation tests everywhere. And if any of them fail, we know that our web app doesn't work. But it's important to remember that these tests are the hardest to set up. Imagine yourself creating an environment to run a test on different machines because users have different computers, different devices, different phones, different browser types, different versions. How can you really test for that? I mean, you can, but it's really, really hard. And this is why there's so many services that provide automation testing for you. Here's an example of a few of them. Yep, these are just a few of them, such as Nightwatch, WebDriver.io, Test Cafe, Nightmare, Cypress. The list really goes on. Automation testing is something you usually only find at bigger companies that have the budget to really spend money on this. Because there's so many edge cases and they're so expensive to implement that some developers go their whole career without ever writing an automation test. But I still want to cover it because it is an important topic. Here's a quick lowdown though. If you just want to get started and not worry about cross-browser and have all the tools in one, probably Test Cafe is your best choice. Or if you want the one that has the best documentation online, well, WebDriver.io is really great. And if you want really simple ways to automate user actions or do something cool like web scraping, well, Nightmare.js is pretty good. Now, the important thing with automation testing is that, like the other name suggests, end-to-end testing, you want to test the entire process of your UI. And you might be thinking, why do we get the machine to do it? Why can't we just hire people to test for us and do automation testing? And that happens. Many companies, instead of writing these scripts, simply hire people to do automation testing. And at some companies, you have people like testers that do this for you and make sure that the app works as intended. And there's pros and cons to both of these, and that's something that it will really depend on your company and your work environment. The main thing I want to suggest, though, is that we want to create two different testing processes. One for running unit tests and integration tests, and a completely separate one to run these UI tests, these automation tests. That's because UI tests take a longer time, especially if we worry about different browsers and different devices, and they also cost a lot more money to run them repeatedly. So you'd want to run unit tests and integration tests often, probably in your terminal as you're saving your changes to your code in your local environment, and maybe run UI tests once a day or a couple of times per week, or maybe just before you merge into the master branch, before you release it to production. For now, though, that's it for automation testing. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.